Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Debra Eckerling, creator of the Deb Method for Goal Setting Simplified. I'm also the author of your Goal Guide and 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. You can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. So every week, I bring in some of my people to chime into a special topic. And this is one of my favorites. I probably say that a lot. I've got a lot of favorites, but we're talking relationship development, AKA networking, AKA finding your people and elevating those experiences. And what a better crew to chat with today. I could not ask for. I don't know why I'm talking like Yoda. I think it's because you've got the Yoda, Tiffanie, that I am like subconsciously.
Your inner.
Yeah, I'm channeling. But seriously, great group of people. Today we have Tiffanie Kellog, who I'm trying to remember. I met you through Innovation Women Land, right?
Possibly. That could be it. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And it was one of those, we were in a breakout room together and I'm like, you're my people. And she said, so are you. So I was fortunate. That's the other thing about the guests today. They're all podcast hosts. And I was on Tiffany's podcast and I'm like, you want to come talk about relationship development? She's like, I love people. Yes. And we've got a great backstory. And then Larry Levine, who is all things selling from the heart. We met, he shared a secret. He is one of the 60 secrets in 52 Secrets. And we met through our friend Brynne Tillman, who said, you're doing this book, you have to meet Larry. So really thrilled. And we only get to hang out whether you're on my podcast or I'm on
you're
yours,
on mine. Yeah.
Right. But it's always a good time wherever we go. And we have Keith Smith, and Keith and I are both on the marketing, both GoalChat and the Fuel podcast, and now the MPN Meta Marketing Show, which is co-hosted by us. What is it? So you might be watching this live or the replay or listening to us as GoalChat, which is on the Marketing Podcast Network. I named myself editorial director. Keith, what did you name yourself for MPN?
I think I'm just a host. I'm not sure. I don't know.
No, I think you gave yourself a fancy title. I should look. But you said we need to do a show talking about the shows on MPN. Want to do it with me? Okay, twist my arm. I went from hosting 2 to hosting 4 podcasts in the span of like a week in August, which is okay. Talking, one of my favorite things to do. And what's great about talking, you get to meet people, develop relationships, and see how you elevate each other. Yes, I'm so proud of me for getting us back to topic. But before we dive in, I would love for you all to share a little bit more about each of you, because right now, all anybody knows is that you're awesome, which is true. But I feel like we should give them maybe a little bit more detail. So Tiffanie, welcome. Who are you and why are you here?
Thank you, Debra. And I want to make sure that I am on track. About how long do you want me to share who I am? Are you looking for like 20 seconds, 2 minutes, 2 hours? Just
okay.
I know it's not
you can have the 2 minutes. I did once, and usually, I left that part out. Usually in the pregame, I say, if you can answer a question in 3 minutes, 2 minutes, better. If you need 4 minutes, take it. I once had someone take 8 minutes to introduce themselves and did not even get the hint when I took them off the spotlight. So I believe you take whatever you think you need. I trust you and Baby Yoda.
All right. I appreciate it. Well, hi, y'all. I am Tiffanie Kellog from Tampa, Florida, where I have lived since 2003. And I share when I moved here, not from the perspective of that's how long I've been in Tampa. It's from the perspective of that's when I entered my entrepreneurial career. So 2003, I moved to Florida and started my very first business, having no clue what needed to be done to generate business. And I spent the next 2 years cold calling, and I'm good at it, and I hate doing it. Luckily, though, I got invited to a networking event in 2005, and it was like the skies parted, the sun was coming through. Oh my gosh, there's a room full of people that want to refer me. I want to be a part of this. And it was my very first experience with networking, which dramatically impacted my journey as an entrepreneur. I joke that if somebody had told me I'm gonna have to go talk about my business in front of a room full of people for 30 seconds, I would not have gone, which is a little humorous now because I make my living as a professional speaker. And the things that I typically talk about for the past 2 decades is how to get more referrals, how to be efficient with networking. And then for the past almost decade, we're about 8 years now, I've been working with entrepreneurs to help them have more free time. Because what I found is so many entrepreneurs are like, we want to grow the business and we want to get referrals and we want to do the networking. Where do we find the time to do that? Relationship marketing, which is what they need to rename referral marketing, takes time, and we have to have the time. And so I really started sharing the tips on how do we have more time. And the bottom line when it comes to entrepreneurs, my vision is that they have more money, more time, more fun in life, whether that's more referrals or just having a calendar that really works for them. My goal is to help people have that, what they dreamt of one day today, because we never know what's going to happen.
And you can't reach your goals without your people. So
you gotta have a team. Together,
yes.
Everyone achieves more.
Well, we do love a good acronym. Really happy to have you here. Larry, welcome. Good to see you.
Oh, it's great seeing you. We're going to have a great time this afternoon. I know we are. But my name's Larry Levine, and I believe success happens when I contribute to a greater cause, and that greater cause is elevating the world of sales, because I believe sales is the best profession out there. It's just, how do we go about doing it? We do it with authenticity and trust. I'm the author of Selling from the Heart, and my latest book, Selling in a Post-Trust World. We have 2 great podcasts, Selling from the Heart and Culture from the Heart. No pun on both, but they're both play on each other. And we believe that trust is the missing link in a world that's just so devoid of trust. And it's our mission at Selling from the Heart to help sales leaders, executives, presidents of companies, to educate them on how to build authentic relationships, bring meaningful value, create those inspirational experiences we all crave, and do it with disciplined habits. And if you can do that, you'll drive monumental revenue, profit, and you'll have client retention like none other.
And I'm certain I've asked you this before, but how did you become you, Larry? I mean, how did the heart? I mean, it feels like the biggest no-brainer on the planet to sell from the heart.
You know what? I grew up in a world. I grew up in a chaotic world in sales, and I sold copiers in Los Angeles. I had 3 copier dealerships for 30 years, and I knew that selling something that was highly commoditized, very transactional, the only way you were going to stick out is you had to build trust, and you had to build deep, meaningful relationships. I just kind of smashed those all together, and I did one thing different than anyone else. I just asked my customers what they really want from salespeople.
And they said?
And I just fed it to them. Be real, be relatable. Don't break your promises. Keep coming back, educate me, inspire me. And I just asked my customers what they wanted. I asked them what they didn't like about salespeople. I erased it out of my memory, and I just doubled down on everything they said. Building relationships isn't rocket science. It just takes effort.
Well, in humanity.
Yeah.
But we'll get, I'm certain we will get to the humanity part. Great to have you. Keith, welcome.
Hello.
Hi, who are you? Why are you here?
Okay. Keith Smith. I am the managing director of a new business SaaS platform for creative agencies called The Advertist. I'm also the host of the Fuel podcast, which is related. It started out related to The Advertist. The idea behind it was that I've spent most of my time working at the sharp end of new business acquisition for creative agencies, and the podcast, because we were all locked in our houses during the COVID pandemic, kind of the podcast seemed a natural thing to do, and just basically formed an extension of what The Advertist was about, which was just asking people what are their key ingredients to growing their agencies, their creative agencies, how they do it, and what kind of tips have they got. So that's how the podcast started, and then things snowballed and became a member of the podcast network, which I share with you, Debra. And it's just become it's opened up a whole new area of sort of dialogue with people. I don't obviously my accent. I'm British. My clients are British, but I'm actually based in Indianapolis, in the Midwest, as you've correctly identified earlier, Debra. I mean, I just enjoy speaking to creative people. who are looking for solutions because they're not always the best salespeople, creative people. So it's quite interesting to use creativity as a way of unlocking new business rather than, the sort of the hard-nosed sales that we all kind of a bit more familiar with. But and with that, I'll yield my time back to the group.
Excellent. Well, really thrilled to have you here. And I love, like I said before, it's such an important conversation, and something that I've said, I know every person who I interviewed for 52 Secrets because they were all friends, or like Larry, a friend said, oh, you need this person for your book. And I also say that in a lot of ways, it was the outgrowth of this, because this group is bringing together people who, unless it's on purpose, don't know each other for a conversation. And if anybody ever asks me my favorite form of networking, it's here. It's a great way to get to know new friends better or catch up with people I haven't seen in a while. But it's really in service of sharing what you know to uplift others and inspire them to get those goals that they're there for the taking, but you can't reach them on your own. Let's start with like the really super basic question, which is, how do you define relationship development? I know it's an easy one, but I'm curious if you each have a little different take on it. So Keith, do you want to start?
Well, it's weird. I mean, relationship development is just, to me, is how you relate to other people, and I think it's something that you develop just as, I mean, we all have that ability to do it, or most of us do. And I think that, developing a relationship is just about being inquisitive. It's about asking questions, finding out more about people, and then, sort of seeing where it goes, not having a set outcome in mind when you start, I think has always been my thing. I just love seeing where conversations go.
Great. And so, Larry, what do you add to that?
But what's interesting? I'm going to play on the word that Keith used, inquisitive. You got to bring curiosity to the forefront on all of this because, it's interesting. I think the older that we get, a lot of people assume that we know how to build relationships. And I will tell you this, humans are messy and relationships are messy. And I don't feel we're doing enough to really coach and train and work with people to clearly define what is a relationship, how do you build one, what's it look like. I've heard the relate word. I'm all about connect. You got to be relatable. You got to be real. You got to shine the light on them. And I think what happens a lot of times is people walk into however they define a relationship and they look at it as, what can I get for me? And it's not about me. It's always about we. What can we do to help each other grow? And what's interesting is, and I'm saying this through a sales-centric lens for just a moment, because that's the world that I live in, is sales, is so many people can't clearly define a relationship, and the relationship they think they have is not what the other person thinks the relationship is, because no one's bothered to sit down and have a conversation around what is the relationship and what are we doing here to build this whole thing.
That's true. People don't, I think people live a lot with blinders on. And that's part of the problem is they're in desperate mode all the time. And that creates nothing but more stress and anxiety. I think I've already taken us down a rabbit hole, but what do you think? Okay, silence.
No.
Oh, I'm saying that if you're not.
Was that aimed back at me? My apologies.
Yes.
I don't know if that was aimed back at me.
It was.
So sorry.
I thought that was back to you, Larry.
Hello. My bad.
This is the relationship show, right?
Apparently.
Go ahead and rewind the last 45 seconds and I'll pick it right back up, Deb. It's all good.
If you are listening, no, there is not a glitch in your audio.
Okay, let me just interject. That in itself, to me, is what this is all about, is the fact that it doesn't always go perfectly. And it's about being able to have a laugh with people, being able to say, oops, that was awkward, or, screwing something up and not getting it right and stuff like that. That is part of being relatable. And I think too often we don't do that, and that's what putting up those, that creates barriers. And I think being vulnerable, being open to people, I think is a skill that is very hard to develop.
Well, it goes back. We're just not, again, my opinion on this, we're just not taught this. We just really aren't. I just think a lot of us learn this by watching others or reading or practicing it, whatever words y'all want to use. But again, sales centric, we're not doing enough. And I play in highly relational, full cycle sales environments where relationships really matter. And what's interesting is grown adults can't look me in the eye and define what a relationship is. And is it a good one? Is it not a good one? Walk me through this. No one can really give me a clear definition, which leads me down the road that we're not doing enough to help people really unpack how to grow a mutually beneficial relationship where both parties are in complete alignment of what this relationship looks like and what they're going to get from the relationship.
When we row in the same direction, everybody benefits, but so often we are not. And by we, I mean not us. I mean other people, right? Tiffanie, what about you? What is your definition of relationship development?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting in these conversations that are coming up, and something that I'm hearing over and over again is not just the business people having issues creating relationships, but like real life people. Like my mom doesn't have any friends anymore now that she's moved to this community, or my cousin moved to this new city and having a hard time making friends, or like as we grow up, school is like really makes our friendship, and then we become adults and we have to do friends totally different. And for whatever reason, business people think that business relationships, referral relationships are like this abnormality that don't follow the rules of friendship. And so to me, whether we're a romantic relationships, we're a friendship of neighbors, our spouses work together, so we're friends in that way, or we're both part of the same networking organization, we have to realize that it is about the relationship. And most people don't try and get married on a first date. But I go to a networking event and it's like, Larry, hey, nice to meet you. Will you give me referrals? Hey, Keith, we've never talked before, but please hand over your book of business to me because we're at this networking event together. And I think that people are wanting, because we're in this like shortcut society, they want to shortcut the friendship, but we have to realize it takes all of the relationships. We have to build that know, like, and trust. Whether it's on the business side and the trust is, let me give you my business or let me give you my referrals, whether it's a friendship, whether it's, let me give you my trust, let me give you my heart, let me give you my relationship. And, I think Larry has a really good point. I think a lot of times people have this miscommunication of what friendship is or what relationships are. And because like I heard somebody talking, they're like, listen to how horrible this friend is. I'm like, they sound like they're doing a perfect job. They're like, but they're not doing this, this, and this. I'm like, well, did you communicate? And so I think that communication is so key to all of our relationships. And if we're able to be upfront with our potential referral sources, these are like our sales team. These are the people that are helping us. And if we treat them, I'm not going to say like family, because I don't feel like we have to be like family for business, because we've all got the bad family. Family is not always good for everyone. But we pick our best relationships. We want these people in our world. And I think that if we go into it looking at who are my long-term referral partnerships, the people, I've got a partner, Tom, we've been doing business and passing each other referrals for 2 decades. Like I met him early on in my business career, and that's what can be created. Versus that transactional, which I think a lot of people are kind of leaning towards Larry. They're like, I want it to be quick and easy. And you're so right. It's about, let's develop that relationship.
Well, there has to be this, we've already said the phrase, this know, like, and trust. And I think it goes way beyond know, like, and trust is, are you being real with me? Can you relate to me? Are you bringing something relevant to me? Because I think in this world of relationship marketing, referral marketing, whatever clothes you want to put on this to dress this all up, it's interesting because likability and friendship come out in this almost immediately. And I could and I'm just going to use Deb as an example because she's the host, and so I'm just going to aim this at her. But it's just to use her name on this is I can like Deb and Deb and I can be friends. Doesn't mean that Deb's trustworthy or credible. And I'm just saying this for the purpose of this conversation. But that's what so many people get wrong is they think because I like you, we had somewhat of a good conversation. Now we're friends. I'm opening up my network to you, which is so far from the truth. Is I'd rather, I got to trust you and I got to think you're credible. So when you come up to me, whether that's virtually or you shake my hand or you're introduced, you better bring something to that conversation immediately that validates why I'm talking to you.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny listening to you guys talk about it, because I mean the thing that the thing that I learned very early on was my dad was a great salesperson, but he was not a salesperson. He was just really good at getting on with people. And I think that is there's a subtle difference to it, because some people set out in the world of sales and just go, they're like a fire hose and trying to, you know, get a drink of water from a fire hose is very difficult. Whereas my dad used to be just very conversational. I mean, he was a surveyor. He used to walk into people's houses, into their private space, and, you know, sort of speak to them. But he used to do things like, you know, if he was there 10 minutes early, because he was an artist, he'd do a sketch of their front door or something else like that, you know. Or when he was in there, I used to have great fun in sort of once every 3 years, he'd throw away all his records and stuff like that. And you'd look at all these sketches and drawings that he'd done and notes from his notepad, and there'd be the most bizarre things written on them, like, you know, had a dog with 3 legs called Larry, you know, or whatever it happened to be. And you'd be like, they used to crack me up. But those were the things that when he was speaking to them again the second time or third time around, that he would basically, you know, use that as a way of building trust with the person, to show that he remembered them and it was something that stuck in his mind. And I think that those are a little techniques that are just that people use, you know, that just to say, you know, I remember you know, you wore that blue necklace last time I met you, or, you know, you had such fun talking about your dance class and things like that. Those things are all kind of like things that make somebody realize that you were paying attention. And I think when you do that, you're starting to build trust. That's the first thing, is that you're you know, showing that you're paying attention to what they're up to.
I think there's a huge difference between being genuine and acting genuine.
Yeah.
And that's where this comes up a lot on this show, is everybody's told be authentic. Do you remember the days when we were just authentic? You didn't have to be, you just were.
Yeah.
How do we get that back?
Well, it requires intention. It requires intentionality. And here's what's interesting about all of this. We're all authentic human beings. But yet everyone has this hard time defining authenticity, because they're looking at it through the lens of what everybody else says out there. And I'm a big believer in this. You got to look inward. If you look inward, you're going to find your authentic self. Too many people are chasing what they see on social media and all of that,
Right.
based on what other people say of being authentic, and they lose track of who they are. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand, and it wreaked havoc on me in my 20s. Because I mean, literally, I was trying to model what other people were doing, because I wanted to be like them, because I thought they were successful. So I lost my authentic self. And authenticity is a lifestyle. It's not just something you flip a light switch on and say, hey, you know what? I think today I'm going to wake up and be authentic. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to go shove it back in the closet. It doesn't work like that.
That's a great point.
It's the difference between being who you are and actually crafting who you are, right? The D and the Deb method is determine your mission. I believe to get what you want, you need to know what that is, but you also have to be your unique self. So all of the things I love. What, Tiffanie and Keith, I want you in on this question. What do you think is the key to being more authentic?
I'll let Tiffanie go first.
The key to being more authentic. I don't know. Can you be more authentic? I'm like getting into like the science and the grammar of the is, they talk about, can you give 110%? Can you be 110% authentic? Now I'm just being silly, y'all.
I appreciate you vamping while you're figuring out the answer to the question. Thank you.
And this is authentic to who I am. It's such an interesting thing. I think that the more that we can just be who we are, like people sometimes are like, Tiffanie, you mess up in your videos, you say funky things, you're weird. You've got like baby Yoda hanging out and like little Star Wars minis, and like you're a little silly. I speak on stage in socks, and I'm just like, I am who I am. And I don't know that it's more authentic, but it's about being more comfortable in who I am. Now, that does require a thick skin, because what I learned as a speaker and as a coach, when you have a product or service that you're selling, people are like, I don't like that product or that service. What I found in my 20s was when people are like, oh, you're the consultant, I don't like Tiffanie. I don't like what she stands for. And so it took me a little while to realize that I am not everybody's flavor, and I have to be okay with that. And if you want to talk about like, let's like lean in, because this year I decided that I'm starting a networking group for women entrepreneurs living child free. And so you want to talk about like not necessarily being what everybody else is. It's a very small sliver of a sub niche of a teeny tiny little percent of the population. And it's who I am. And I find that when I get to hang out with people like that, there's just an ease to it. And I think that the power of when we show up being our authentic self, that we're not trying to hide, to diminish, which is what I think a lot of people is. Not everybody. Some of it's what are we modeling, but women especially, it's what are we, trying to dim. It can be about, let's just show who I am, and being okay with the fact that some people won't like me. Whether they don't like me because I'm blonde, or because I like Star Wars, or because I'm wearing teal, or an asymmetrical necklace that is driving you nuts. This is just kind of weird, quirky who I am, and the right people will be attracted to it. And so I think that when it comes to the authenticity, when it comes to your relationships, it's about being magnetic. And just where you're pulling in the people that are the right fit for you, you are repelling the people that aren't the right fit. And where I think business owners get stuck is they fall in the scarcity mode of, I have to do this for everyone and be with everybody and be everyone's BFF. And that's how I'm going to grow my business. When really it's when you are authentic to who you are, you live in that space, there's this ease that goes along with it. And you are going to attract the right referral sources into your world that bring the right clients into your world. And all those other PIAs, pain in the ass type people, you don't have to worry about, because they ain't coming in, because you've got the right people on your team. You've got the right friends, the right relationships that are helping you grow your business by referral.
Hey, you know what you just said? There's a lot of gold in what you just said, Tiffanie. And it goes back to, I'm glad you brought this back into relationships, because it goes back to, we're just not coached to it. And if I heard what you said correctly, it's about alignment in relationships. And I was sitting there listening to what you're saying, and I go back in time, and I go back like decades and decades and decades ago, where I was trying to build relationships with everybody out there. And I was trying to turn, non-believers into believers. And I was trying to bring them all into my tribe and my community, how I defined it. And it just wasn't working. Until later on, I found out, I have to have relational alignment and relational health. I can't do business with everyone. I can't be friends with everyone. I can't network with everyone. However, I can engage in conversations with people to determine if they're the right type of people by asking the right types of questions. And I really believe this, less than 5 minutes, you can figure out if somebody's your people or not.
100%. Yeah.
And then if they're not, you're not being, a-holes to them. You can just still have a conversation, because you might learn something about them, but that's about as far as it's going to go. They may not be a referral source. They may not be, brought into your community. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means you're not relationally aligned, so you can move it past the conversation that y'all are having.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what I think is so important about this, Larry, and back to the relationships as well, Debra, is the fact that I'd rather know in the first 3 minutes, in the first 5 minutes, the first 10 minutes, are we going to be a good fit or not? Like, I just don't get. So full disclosure, I started dating my husband in 1998 when we were sophomores in college. And we got married shortly thereafter. So I haven't done this adult dating thing. But I look at people dating that like don't tell the truth up front, or like they lie about their age or their beliefs on their profile dating. And to me, when we're inauthentic in our marketing and in our business, we're lying on our profile. And why not be 100% honest up front, so you weed out what you don't want, or the ones that don't want you?
When I do, I've kind of honed my technique very late in life, but it's been down to doing the podcast. And one of the things that I enjoy doing about the podcast is that for every guest I have, I do at least 1 hour with them before the show, like a couple of weeks before, just to break the ice and to think, because I think in a conversation, if you just throw people at each other, or like Debra's
Like
done
us?
with us, none of us know each other, so we're having to do this on the fly. But the point is that on the podcast is that I will sit down with somebody ahead of that and have a conversation that can go anywhere. I can start off with a few like quick questions, that will get the conversation going. But I let people go wherever they want to go, because I think what's more fun is to have somebody on the podcast who, okay, they want to come on and talk about business. They want to come and talk about, how they've grown an agency from nothing to 5 million or 10 million or 50 million, whatever it happens to be. That's interesting. That's great. But the person that did that is the more interesting part of it. It's what they did. And that's the stuff that I love doing, is kind of digging a little bit deeper and sort of asking people random questions, which are going to, throw up uncover the personality behind, rather than the press release that people always put up in front of themselves.
I'm trying to decide if you insulted me.
I did not hear an insult at all. Not any insult.
Actually, you'll forgive me. I'm never funny when I'm trying to be, except maybe I just was that one time.
It can be very difficult, can't it, to actually be put together like strangers on a train, and then in the space of 20 minutes to try and find common ground and stuff like that. It's
but
that
is my superpower. That is what I do.
I mean, just thank God. I mean, I'm with you, Tiffany. That the whole speed dating thing would have just drive me mad.
Well, what's interesting is it goes back to, if you want to have a good conversation and build a relationship with anybody, I don't care, referral, networking, life, it's just, you got to detach from the outcome. And I think and Keith said, and I saw Deb had put it in the chat, let the conversation go where it goes. And I love that, because I really believe in this, is when we're deeply attached to the outcome of that conversation, that attachment comes across in our conversation and people sense it.
Yes.
But if we can detach from the outcome, that's why, like on our podcast, we just let the conversation go where the conversation goes. Deb knows this because she's been on it. But, we'll steer it in the beginning, but then it just goes where it goes.
Right.
And I think if people can understand that when they're building relationships, you have to ask really good questions. You got to be inquisitive. You really have to mean it. You have to ask questions because you really want to unpack that person, what they believe, what their thoughts are, what are they thinking, things like that. Just let it go where it goes. Detach from the outcome. You'll be surprised how fast y'all start connecting.
Absolutely.
I want to yes and that, because I completely agree with this, but it goes back to what we were talking about. If you're in stress mode or desperate mode, or you just want to meet as many people as possible mode, you're not going to have a good experience. It doesn't matter how awesome the people in the room are. So yes, let the conversation go where it goes, but enter the conversation with the feeling of wonder, of possibility, of positivity, in that it can go somewhere great. So you need to add a little optimism. That's why I will never, if I'm even not feeling like a little bit 100%, most cases, I will not go to a networking event, because if you are not your 100% self, you are not going to give off your you vibes. as it
Yeah.
were.
Oh,
Again,
yeah.
I stopped the conversation. Look at me go. What is that? 3 times today?
No,
Woo-hoo.
I think it's point. I think when you're all thrown together for the purposes of networking, then everybody has to try and do the networking thing, and it's even like, people wearing name badges. I mean, forgive me if anybody does this, but one of the most fundamental ways of introducing yourself is to find out somebody's name. As everybody's wearing name badges, it makes it very difficult. So I mean, there are some cues that we kind of override in a social setting, in a business setting, that we override in order to try and fast track something. And I think that kind of puts a bit of a sort of a false outcome on the whole thing. Is that, here's my name, talk to me. It's much easier just to ask somebody their name and what do they do, where do they work, all that kind of stuff. I think is really interesting. That's the great icebreaker part of the conversation.
I think it helps when you genuinely like people, which I think is true of this panel and most of the people I know, because as Tiffanie so eloquently pointed out, you find your people. What are you
but
finding yourself?
I don't like networking.
That's why we're calling it relationship development.
It is working. It is work.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is a great time to bring this in. Is we recently had a guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast, and we were talking about this very word, networking, which I don't like anyway. I'm right there with you. But this person went on and said that scratch networking and call it net weaving. And yeah, it's a play on it, right? We can play on so many different words. We can even play on the relationship word, but networking requires work. I totally get it, but it should be like it should be all about just conversational relationship building, whatever the words y'all want to use. I think the reason why some of this is so difficult, well, I'm going to go back to this networking and building relationships, is when you do this every once in a while, you get results every once in a while. This requires practice, and you got to do this stuff every day. You got to open up conversations with strangers every day. You got to network every day. You got to lean into your network every day. You got to introduce people every day. And when you do this, it becomes a whole lot more easier than when you do it every few weeks or once a month. Because when you do it once a month, you kind of become a predator when it becomes all this networking stuff, right? Because you're so desperate that you walk in an event and all you're thinking about is yourself and your needs.
We did exactly. We did a few weeks ago. The topic was visibility, and we had Barbara Carlton. She was one of the panelists on this topic, and we were talking about visibility. And the key that everybody decided was the most important thing was to get out and be in front of people. So we ended up with a networking / relationship development, go to things conversation, just based off the word visibility, because if people do not see you, they cannot meet you. They cannot meet you. You cannot find your people, blah, 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 blah.
I agree. I mean, I do agree with that. I'm coming at this. I always have done. I'm a very reluctant salesperson, really, to a certain degree. I'm naturally. I've discovered later in life that I'm actually quite introverted, and ever since 5 years ago, I gave up drinking. Okay, and I always felt that alcohol was a way of lubricating a conversation, and that was an instinct that I developed, was a way of getting on with people, was by drinking. When I stopped drinking, I actually stopped socializing as well at the same time, and it was what I discovered was that I find networking events exhausting, absolutely mentally exhausting. I can come away from it. I'm not like, Larry's like full of beans. He's all over it by the looks of it. It's like I would literally come away from an event and need 2 or 3 days to decompress afterwards, because I just find it tough to, try and interact with so many people at any one stage. And bear in mind, all my clients are based 3,500 miles away from where I live. So I can't do that networking thing.
Yeah.
So it's actually, you have to develop other ways of being able to do it. It's like being dyslexic. You've got to find other ways around the solution. But, like I say, I don't subscribe to the fact that you always need to be in with people. I think that, some people aren't designed that way, and that's fine. You can still be gregarious and meet people and be inquisitive and be an introvert at the same time.
Hey, I by the way, I smell what you're cooking, Keith. So I got clients all over the place. I mean, I have very few clients in my backyard, literally
Right.
my backyard here in Southern California. I got to hop on an airplane to go see most of them. And when I generate business, a lot of it is through networks and it's through referrals, but it's not walking into rooms.
Right.
It's walking into virtual rooms, and it's walking into other people's networks, and it's paying attention to what other people are saying online, and it's asking my clients, who do they know, and things like that. So I think the modern day networking is a whole lot different than maybe the networking where we walk into a room with a stack of business cards and you can't leave until you have no more business cards. I can't do any of that. I can't do that, because most of the networking events I've gone to in my own backyard are not my people. They're not my tribe. They're not my clientele.
And most of the people in 52 Secrets, I've never met in real life.
Yeah.
Maybe like a quarter of them, maybe. And just off the top of my head, but it doesn't mean my relationships with them are any less valuable than people who are down the street. Do I know people down the street? Yeah, that's another.
I mean, interestingly,
Right?
Deborah, we've never met in person yet. I mean, I loved listening back to that podcast that we did together, because it did actually sound like a great conversation. There was a natural kind of cadence to it that I just thought, okay, well, that sounded like a really good really natural conversation. And I think that, we've now got the technology to be able to do that. So let's just take advantage of it if we can.
I think we have to remove the blinders. Going back to this relationship, I think we have to remove the blinders of how relationships can actually grow and how we can foster them and all that. Because most of my clients, I'll tell you this, some of them I've never met face to face.
Right.
And we've built some deep, meaningful relationships where we actually drop the L word that has an O, a V, and an E in it. Right. And I always say you get out of relationships what you put into them. And there's so many different ways that we can build relationships. And I'm all high face to face, and I love to slap high fives and hug people. But you know what? You just can't do this when you got clientele spread across time zones. You just can't do it.
I agree.
So we agree. Networking, I'm using air quotes for those listening, aka relationship development, because that's how I like to refer to it. It comes in all different shapes and sizes, but you need to be out there somewhere, whether it is virtually in virtual rooms, in real life rooms, commenting. What is your favorite way to meet new people? Larry? Tiffanie?
No.
No, Tiffanie, you got an answer. Go for it.
As the hardcore introvert, my favorite way to meet new people is to have other people introduce me to the new people. Like when I go networking, most of the time when I go networking to events nowadays is how can I find referrals for my clients? How can I create introductions? Very rarely am I going networking to meet my ideal client. And so what I want to do is I want to arm my referral team to find me those networks. And for those of us that are introverted and don't want as many people, what I love about when you do referral marketing, relationship marketing the right way is most of us really only need 4, 6, or 8 of the right referral sources that can pass us all the business that we need all day, every day. And so my goal is to make sure that the people out there know who is my ideal client. How can you easily refer me to them? And so like I even have a Google document. So if somebody says, hey, Tiffanie, I met a woman entrepreneur, living child-free, loving it, business owner, you need her. I'm like, here is the Google document where you can go cut and paste the introduction. Keep it the same or make it completely your own. I want to make it easy for people to refer me. So all they have to do is go to the Google document, and then they can cut and paste, hey, let me introduce you to Tiffanie, whether it's a message or an email, and copy me on it. And so I want to make it super easy so people can refer me to the right prospects and to the right referral sources. So my favorite way to meet people is to get other people to do the work. So I have to do the work for them to get them the right people, but get those introductions to let them tell me how amazing these people are and shortcut that relationship.
That's good. I love that.
Got it. Okay, extrovert Larry.
I'm not going to say what Tiffanie said because I really believe in it, and she stole my thunder on it because I do a lot of that as well. But I'm going to throw a twist into this, and I've always said this is, how do you expect people to know who you are when they don't know who you are? You got to get out there in this. We're in this socially driven world where we operate through networks and we operate through screens and we operate through social media. I have found literally, and I built this business from scratch, literally 10 years ago, didn't have a client. No one knew who I was outside the little myopic industry of the copier industry, because that's all I did. But how I got noticed is I started driving really thoughtful, insightful, engaging content online. And I paid attention to the people who paid attention to me. That's how I met so many people. And then obviously through podcasting and all that, it's opened up Pandora's box into who knows, into me getting introduced to people. But I think today in this socially driven world, I don't care if you're an extrovert, introvert, whatever vert you want to use on the beginning of this, doesn't really matter, is leverage the power that we've been giving with social media. Control what you can control. That's how you show up. And if you show up with authenticity, if you show up with real meaningful insight, you're there to engage, you're there to educate, you're there to excite people in a conversation, people will be attracted to that. So I'd say, if you want to meet new people, pay attention to the people who pay attention to you, and then reach out and engage in conversation with them, and do it every freaking single day.
That's a great point, Larry, and I think it's well made as well. And I'll just give you an example of this. Was when I first met my wife, when we did some house sitting for my best friend. This is back in the UK. My friend lived in Cambridge. And we did some house sitting. And while we were house sitting, my friend phoned me up and he said, "Do you mind if my dad comes up and he's got some things he needs to deliver?" It was over Christmas. He's got some presents to deliver. We were like, no, that's fine. So my wife's from Indiana. So we're standing at there's a knock at the door, and he walks in, and he's very English gentleman wearing his tweeds, and he's very tall, and his name was Morris. And he's very, very genuine person. And he walked up to my wife and he shook her hand and he introduced himself and his wife and stuff. And he said to her, he leaned in and he said to her, "Tell me one thing." He said, "You're from Indiana, aren't you?" And she said, "Yeah." And he said, "Is it true that if you stand still, you can hear the corn grow?" And she was just gobsmacked. And I tell you what, she loved him from that second, because he had taken the time to do a little bit of research. All he knew was that she was from Indiana. That was it. But this is before, the internet was, before social media, and we were all checking each other out beforehand. But he had that one piece of information, and he probably went to an encyclopedia, read up on something on Indiana, and spoke to her about it. And she loved him from that moment on. And it was just such a great icebreaker. And it was just, that teaches you the lesson. To your point, Larry, what you're saying, now we have the ability to check people out on social media, find one thing or two things that's interesting about them and drill down on it. And that, I think, is that's where the gold is.
So is this your answer?
Yes.
To your favorite way to network is to find things that are interesting about others and connect through them?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, Tiffanie, go.
No, I was just I love, we're talking about the connecting and the adding. And sometimes what I do for the people that I'm really trying to woo as potential, whether they're prospects or referral sources, like I think getting back to this whole conversation from earlier about relationships, if I want something for somebody, what am I doing for them? So I actually keep a list of social media pages of people that I am wooing. So whether they're the referral source, somebody that I love, prospects, And so I may not be going every day to everybody's because that's a little too stalkerish, but I'm trying to hit everybody at least every couple of weeks. And so it just, I'll go hit 5 or 6 people a day. And so I just have that because I sometimes I say I'm lazy or I'm efficient, but I've got my spreadsheet so I can just go click. And then that way I'm sure I'm staying on top of those people. I'm commenting with intention, just because sometimes I need that focus in my life. I need structure.
Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's finding the clues and being able to have something that you can talk about.
You know what I like about this conversation is the underlying theme of what Tiffanie just said requires disciplined habits. And this goes back to, and I know this is near and dear to Deb, and time management and goal setting and things like that, is you have to have a plan for all of this, and you have to be disciplined with all of this. You can't just walk into this haphazardly, no plan, right? I'm going to shuck and jive and I'm just going to figure out things. You can't do this anymore. If you really, and I believe this, we're all entrepreneurs. I don't care if you're working for somebody else or you're on full commission, whatever. We're all solo entrepreneurs in this world. You got to take control of your own destiny on this, and you got to create a plan. You got to be disciplined with it. You got to be consistent with it. You got to have goals around it, and you got to revisit it on a daily basis, because you're only going to get out of this what you put into it.
I love that you just yes. I'm like smiling and nodding. One of the things that I tell people is, you can refresh the beginning of the month at the beginning of the week, but come up with activities that you are going to do on a daily or semi-daily basis, even if it's, and this is a really low bar, but you want 5 networking interactions a week. 2 of them can be emails or messages, or good heavens, pick up the phone and say hello to someone you haven't talked to in a while. They can be an interaction like this, or being on a different kind of podcast, learning something, mixer, online, offline, but give yourself like a number or a range and just do the things, which really ties into the next thing, which is, this is where I ask you all to gift a goal to the audience. What is something that they could do today, tomorrow, immediately to get a little bit better at relationship development? And Tiffany's smiling. So we're going to go with you first. What goal do you want to gift?
Okay, so my gift to the audience is knowledge of who their top referral sources are. So your goal is to make a list of your top 12 referral sources. We use the number 12 because lots of different reasons: basketball teams, disciples. So the names, not the professions, not the companies, the actual names of your top 12 referral sources. Because when you've identified who are the best already, or who are the ones that you want to be the best, you now are able to create that intention to go do those activities Debra was just talking about. And so the gift of knowledge is what we're doing today. So write out the names, first names, y'all. These are real people, of your top 12 referral sources, and then reach out and touch someone.
As it were. Love it.
For people that's one of those that probably I won't be able to use for very much longer. All of those things, the sayings that no longer get to be used. When Keith laughs, so I know one person.
Well, Keith laughed, and I think in part because when we did our NPN Meta Marketing show, one of the shows was about jingles that stuck in your head. And the one that I said was Meow Mix is the first thing that comes to mind, and I've never had a cat. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, reining myself in. Keith, what goal do you want to gift?
Well, I think the one that I always like, and I mean, it sounds very unprepared, but I love, I'm going to stick with my theme of asking questions all the time. And I think that a goal that I always have is something I use on the podcast, and something I use, in real life as well, is I have 1 or 2 questions that I always like to ask people all the time. And my favorite question at the moment is, something that you would ask a 5-year-old child, which is, if you could have a superpower, what would it be? Okay. And if you're talking to somebody, because you very quickly get an idea. If you ask an adult that question, you very quickly get an idea of where their head is. All right, because a lot of some people say, "Oh, I want to be able to see into the future, or I want to be able to see into the past." That then opens up other questions that you can then ask. And and I mean, one that I heard that I think was one of the best answers I've ever had is, "I'd love to know what animals say." Right? I'd love to be able to talk to animals. And I think that is just such a beautiful thing, because that just gives you such a great conversation piece to allow you to talk about other things. So the thing that I would say is, find a question that's going to throw people off slightly, that they're not going to be expecting from you, and use that as a way of opening up people's personality and getting beneath the surface a little bit.
I'm going to ask you what superpower you wish you had, Key. And I'm coming for you, Tiffanie and Larry, so think about your answer. Speed round.
Well, I would, I tell you, I agree. I would love to be able to speak to animals. I think that would be fascinating.
Okay, Tiffanie?
Oh, and see, I feel like I've got my superpowers. I'm tenacious, and that is definitely one of my hardcore superpowers, is pushing people to do what they need to do. And I've got it already.
Wow.
Okay. Larry?
Now I'm like, what does that say about me? That says all kinds of things. I'm
No,
sure
it's
the
all good.
psychologist would unpack all kinds of stuff in that.
I think my superpower, and I know it because I've worked on it for so long, is it's my ability to connect and relate to somebody really, really fast to get them to open up.
So if you were a superhero, what would you be called? What would your name be?
Okay, so Keisa, you're throwing me on the spot because I don't watch any superhero movies, and outside of Superman and Batman, I really couldn't even name a freaking
What's
superhero.
your Marvel name? You have a Marvel name.
I know zero Marvel characters.
No, you would be a heart man.
I don't watch it.
You would be a heart man.
There, okay, that's good.
I'm Goal Girl. Tiffanie is.
It would definitely be something to do with time machine or time travel. I mean, I've got a TARDIS in my office, so I am kind of playing around with that.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe a little time traveling going on.
Yeah. Time Lord.
Yes, time lady.
Time lady. Time lady. There you go.
Okay, and Keith, not to leave you out, what is your superhero name?
You asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you. We've all fessed up. It's your turn.
I would probably be Dogman or something. I don't know.
Dogman. They have a cartoon called Dogman.
Okay, well, that's taken then. So I'll just be Petman.
Okay, I have a feeling that could be a whole other conversation. Larry.
Speaking of other conversation, there is a comedian, musician, I think Stephen Lynch, who has like this song about superhero powers, but it goes a very different way. It's like funky humor. Stephen Lynch, similar to Tripod-ish, if you're familiar with them. UK. Okay.
I'm reining this in.
Superhero power song.
I'm just reining you back in because we're getting close to time. We're going to go over a little, but hopefully not too much. I know that Larry and Keith have to scoot, so I'm trying to keep us as on time as humanly possible because we all know we could easily go another hour. Larry, what goal are you gifting?
I would say the goal of disciplined conversation every single day. And what do I mean by that? Just look at it in 3 fashions. Hold yourself accountable to having one engaging, meaningful conversation with a current customer. Have one meaningful, engaging conversation with somebody you'd like to do business with. And have one meaningful, engaging conversation with a referral partner every single day. The discipline of having an engaging, meaningful conversation every day. If you do that every single day, 5 days a week, take the weekends off, you're in a lot of conversations above and beyond the ones you're already in.
And this is also a throwback to your secret in 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. I don't know that it's necessarily on purpose. I just feel like that's who you are. that you would have said it anyway.
Yeah. I tell people this stuff's not rocket science. Nothing happens. You can't make a sale. You can't grow personally or professionally without engaging in conversations. We just lost the art of what that really looks like. It's because we don't do it
on your promises. Always
Pardon?
deliver.
What was that?
Always deliver on your promises.
100%.
Yeah.
Because why would you be out there doing the thing you love if you don't intend to follow through?
Yep.
So, I think as humans, and I also love that you said that even if you work for other people, you're an entrepreneur. It's your life, your goals, your choice. Do the things you need to do to get to the life you want, because it's there for you.
Yep.
But you're not going to get it by yourself. You need your network, your people. And let's face it, conversations could be really fun. Like this one, go into it with the attitude of, I get to do this. I get to talk to cool people. And this is actually, bonus, going to grow my business. Great conversation, friends. Where can people learn more about you? Tiffanie?
So luckily, when my parents named me, it's a funky name. And then I got married, even better. So Tiffanie, Tiffanie, Kellog, Kellog. I, as the first generation of people on social media, have at Tiffanie Kellog on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, my website, Tiffanie Kellog. Find me.
Great. And Larry?
You can find me all over LinkedIn. I'm not too hard to find, but if you want to find out everything about Selling from the Heart, go to sellingfromtheheart.net, which will lead you into the podcast, blogs, and all that. And if you want to find out about Culture from the Heart, just go to culturefromtheheart.com.
Excellent. And Keith?
Well, I have a surname which is Smith, which is totally the opposite of Kellogg. So there's a million of us on LinkedIn. But you can find me if you dig hard enough. But the easiest place to find me is thefuelpodcast.com.
Excellent. And I am at the Deb Method everywhere. And if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you will get the recaps, the goals, the links to all the people, but also there are LinkedIn links as well. So you can connect with one and or all of us. Because you can't reach your goals on your own. Now we get to be each other's people. And if you need a little bit of extra help towards your goals, you can grab a copy of your goal guide and or 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting at your favorite place to buy books. Friends, what final thought do you want to leave people with today? Because we've had such a wonderful, rich conversation. If they take one thing away, what do you want it to be? Tiffanie, final thought?
When you find the right people that have the values of you, that offer what you do, referral relationships should be win-win-win. They should be easy, and everyone should be moving forward together when it's right. And if it's not, move on.
Yes. Just because you've invested a little bit of time in something does not mean you need to invest even more if it's not working.
No.
Love that. Okay, Keith, final thought.
Again, just if you say you're going to do something, just deliver on it, and that's the easiest way to create chemistry in a relationship. Do what you say you'll do? I feel like that makes you stand out in this cuckoo banana world we live. Bananas world we live in, right? When people refer you, at least they'll be able to say that you're a trustworthy person to deal with.
Awesome. Love it. And Larry, final thought to you.
I would just say control the controllables. And that where I'm going with this is you can't control anything but yourself. Just remember how you show up matters. Control how you show up, control how you connect and relate and pour into people. Watch what happens on the backside of this.
Oh my goodness. I love this conversation so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tiffanie, Keith, Larry for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Debra Eckerling, aka at the Deb Method. I am live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And or you can subscribe to GoalChat, the Fuel Podcast, Selling from the Heart. I don't know what's yours called, Tiffanie?
Women entrepreneurs living child-free.
You can subscribe to any and all of these at your favorite place to get your podcasts. But we want you to reach your goals. So we are thrilled you joined us today. It's all within your power. So go on out there, go for it, set those relationship development goals. We know you can do it.